Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning to all.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Okay, so as promised yesterday, so let me start the triaxial shear strength testing of the soils and how to determine the shear strength parameters, especially in the laboratory. So I don't touch upon any field; it's not required as of now. And what kind of parameters that you are going to get it. So when I mean what kind of shear strength parameters, you have to understand. So I'm talking about total shear strength parameters or effective shear strength parameters. So as mentioned here, so C and pi, so they are represented in total form or effective stress form, total stress form or effective stress form. So everybody well aware of the fact that the shear strength of the soil can be determined in the laboratory as well as in the field. So these are the list of few tests which can be commonly employed to determine the shear strength and hence thereby determine the C and pi. So that is cohesion and angle of internal friction of a soil. Say it is a clay or sand. Quite frequently used is Vane shear test. This is very simple to operate and it gives the highly reliable parameters of the shear strength. Then Torvane, pocket penetrometer, Falcon, pressure meter, static cone penetrometer, standard penetrometer. So these are all field tests which are commonly used to determine the C and pi values of a soil. While on the laboratory side, so we have seen direct shear testing and triaxial testing, but apart from these two, so there are other variety of tests for determining the shear strength of the soils. Those are uh, what do you call ring shear test, torsional ring shear test, plane strain triaxial testing, and laboratory vane shear test and laboratory cone fall test. So these tests also commonly used to determine C and pi values of the soils. However, if you visit any of the laboratory, so we normally found direct shear test and triaxial testing, and the cost of these equipments are quite less as compared with the torsional ring shear test. And the sample preparation also relatively easier in case of the direct shear and triaxial, while in case of the torsional, it is a little tedious process. Okay, so let us try to understand now the relevance between the field condition and the laboratory condition, how we are mimicking the field condition in the laboratory. So suppose if you take any natural ground surface, and this is the ground surface field condition, and if you go or if you take out any soil sample, normally we call as a finite soil sample, and at a depth of Z, so this soil sample normally subjected to two variety of forces that everybody knows. One is the vertical overburden pressure, which is equivalent to gamma times of Z. Then the lateral strain or the confining pressure, which is sigma h. So which is sigma h. So the ratio between sigma h upon sigma v is called as a rate of earth pressure. So depending upon the moment of this element, so then we call it active earth pressure or passive earth pressure or at rest condition. So it also accounted for the increase in overburden pressure, that is delta sigma. So this point also we have seen yesterday. But here is an important step. For example, when you take out the soil sample immediately from the field, and if you look at the free body diagram of this soil sample, we can understand that no stress will act on this sample. So therefore sigma 1 and sigma 3, all stresses are zero. All stresses are zero. But the question is, if all the stresses are zero, then how the sample able to withstand itself? So this is what is the question. We have to understand how the sample withstands. Okay. Now what we do when you do in the triaxial testing, we initially apply some amount of the confining pressure in all the three directions of equal magnitude. So that is sigma V and sigma H. So when I say the triaxial, or when I talk about the confining pressure, and when I initially apply the confining pressure is equal in all the three directions. Your sigma Vc and sigma Hc, everything is remains same. So remains same. So this is what is called as a confining pressure. Now, how much amount of confining pressure you have applied? That depends upon what is the overburden pressure that was acting on the soil sample actually in the field. For example, so you may be locating your soil sample or your footing at a depth of df from the ground surface, or even far below, or whatever the location you know. So that much amount of the confining pressure you must apply, so as an initial condition. So this application of sigma Vc and sigma Hc mimics that of the field condition. Now followed by, once this initial stress is maintained or replicated, the field condition is replicated, then we further go ahead to shear the sample either by resorting to direct shear test or by conducting the triaxial test, as we can see here. Now depending upon the, if it is a direct shear test, then a shear stress is applied in the horizontal direction as a result. So your failure plane is predefined. Step mode, in a step mode. But truly speaking, when you conduct any triaxial test or a direct shear test, we literally do not impose any load. Therefore, they are called as a not load test. They are strain based test. They are not a stress based test. If you look at case,
Sir,
yeah.
sir, please explain it. This triaxial again. Your voice breaks, sir.
Okay. So in case of the triaxial testing, so initially we should replicate the field condition. The moment you take out the soil sample, all the confining stresses become zero on the soil sample. So this soil sample has to be, brought to the initial field condition. So that can be attained by applying the confining pressure. But when you apply the confining pressure, the amount of the sigma Vc is equivalent to the sigma Hc. That's what is the meaning of the confining pressure. Since you are doing the triaxial, the stress should be equal in all the three directions. So all the three directions. Once you accomplished the field condition or replicated the field condition, then on the same sample, you are going to determine the shear strength parameter, that is C and pi, either by resorting to direct shear test or by conducting the triaxial testing. So in case of the direct shear testing, you are going to apply the shear strength or shear stress, wherein the failure plane is predefined. However, the normal stress represents that of the field condition, while in case of the triaxial testing, a field stress is already applied, and on top of that you are going to apply the increase in overburden pressure, that is delta sigma. Then you have to understand one thing here. When I say the field condition and when I say the application of the delta sigma, we can do one thing. We can understand in step 1. I can increase the delta sigma until this delta sigma is equivalent to the footing load. So this is the condition 1. Or in a reverse way, in step number 2, so I can apply the delta sigma until the you can take it. So I hope this point is clear to everyone.
So the step 2 was not audible, or the second criterion. First one is the initial load, second one was not clear.
Okay. So the first condition is when you try to increase the delta sigma, you can make delta sigma equivalent to the footing load, or alternatively, So without bothering about the footing load, you can increase the delta sigma until the soil sample fails. Until the soil sample fails. So later, the information that we got from the triaxial testing can be inferred for determining the She and Pi values, cohesion and angle of internal friction values. Okay, but if you look at any soil testing in the laboratory, we don't directly apply the delta sigma. We apply the strain rate, and from there we derive how much should be the value of the delta sigma. So that's why we always take strain on the x-axis and stress on the y-axis. Okay, therefore the laboratory tests are called as a strain based test. They are not a stress based test. Stress means you have to apply the load. Strain means you have to apply the deformation, that is rate of deformation, maybe 1 millimeter per minute or 1.25 millimeter per minute or so on and so forth. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Fine. So this is the triaxial soil sample. This is soil sample and there are porous stone. This is simple schematic that everybody well aware of it. So I'm not going to stress anything on it. Then this is the schematic and this is what is the failure plane that has developed on the soil sample. So then these are the cell bed tubes which are normally used for collecting the undisturbed soil sample from the field. And this is how one can able to extract the soil sample using the extruder. So then the sample is extruded into the triaxial mold. And from the mold, you further extrude the triaxial soil sample after the particular geometry. So then all triaxial tests are conducted on this particular soil sample, extracted one. Okay, so then apply the deviatoric stress until the soil sample fails under shearing. Okay, so now this is the most important one because all previous slides you all have a knowledge radiation course. But this is what you need to understand. So this is how one can able to distinguish between the UU, CU and CD test. So this is the triaxial soil sample which is initially applied with the confining stress of delta C. Now after applying the confining pressure, if you apply open the valve or close the valve, depending upon these two conditions, we can allow the soil samples to consolidate or not consolidate. If you open the valve, then the soil sample undergoes the consolidation because of the expulsion of water. If you do not open the valve, then the soil sample will not undergo consolidation. If you open the valve, the soil sample during the consolidation process, it facilitates the soil particles to readjust such that so the cohesion value decreases and the friction value increases. So therefore, depending upon the drainage valve opened or closed, we can say the sample is consolidated or unconsolidated. Now, once consolidation is done, the next step is the shearing. Again, during the loading, either you can open the valve or close the valve. Step 1, during the consolidation, you want to consolidate the soil sample or you do not want to consolidate the soil sample. The step number 2, after the consolidation is over or after the step 1 is done, now you are going to apply the deviatoric stress. So that causes the shearing in the soil sample. During the shearing, again we can allow the water to get expelled out or we can retain the water inside it. So depending upon that condition, again it will be called as a drained condition or undrained condition. So this is a complete chart. If you allow consolidation as well as the consolidation during the consolidation stage plus during the shearing stage, that is called as a CD test. If you allow only consolidation during the consolidation phase but not during the shearing phase, that is called as a CU test, consolidated undrained. So if you close the valve all the time, then that is called as a unconsolidated undrained loading. Okay, but if you refer to some of the books, During the UU also one can able to measure the pore water pressure parameters. So now how to distinguish between UU, CU and CD test? So the degree of consolidation is always measured in the form of a parameters. Those are called as A and B. So I will explain those things about in the subsequent slides. Okay. So when the sample is consolidated, so all the water get expelled out, thereby whole load is borne by on the soil particles. While in case of the unconsolidated condition, the load is shared between the soil and the water. That's why there is a possibility of the development of the pore water pressure. Okay. Consolidation phase, the whatever load initially borne by the water, it gets shifted from water to the soil particles. So they will transmit the load from water to the soil particle because the water will not take any amount of the load, as always it tries to go to the atmospheric condition when the valve is opened, or if it is closed then it will try to take the load. Okay, so these are the three variety of tests. Those are available. So those are normally conducted in case of the triaxial testing. Among these, the most important thing is that when you conduct unconsolidated undrained test, what the parameters that you are going to get are called as a undrained parameters. While the completely opposite to UU is consolidated drained. The sample is completely drained because you are opening the valve during the consolidation phase and during the shearing phase. So therefore, the parameters that you will get during the UU is total C and total pi. And during the CD test, the parameters that you are going to get is only C dash and pi dash. Here C and pi in UU test, C dash and pi dash in case of the CD test. Completely total stress analysis in case of the UU, completely effective stress analysis in case of the CD. While in CU, we can go for total stress analysis as well as the effective stress analysis. Therefore, in CU, we will get C pi as well as C dash pi dash. But one thing you must remember, UU is a quick test. It can be done quite easily and quickly. But for conducting the CU test, you need at least 15 days of your time. And for conducting the CD test, you need at least 1 month of time for one sample. For UU, we can conduct in 1 hour, one sample. In CU, one sample requires 15 days. In CD, one sample testing requires 1 month. 1 month. So why 15 month is required? Because the sample is already compacted but fully saturated. So during the consolidation, normally we do is we apply the back pressure.
So can you repeat? Your voice broke.
Okay, yeah. So when you conduct a CD test, when you are consolidating the soil sample, so you allow the water to expel out. But when the soil sample is consolidating, the expulsion of water is not so easy. It is a time-bound phenomenon. So therefore, we apply the increase in cell pressure, or alternatively, we apply the back pressure. So by applying the back pressure and the increased cell pressure, we accelerate the process of consolidation. Thus, we end up conducting the each CD test in at least 1 month of time. Okay. In CU, since we have to do consolidation only during the initial stage, so subsequently, so it doesn't take much time because during the shearing, we don't allow the sample to consolidate. Now, another important thing, when you conduct CD test or when you conduct CU test, we can apply the strain rate 1.25 millimeter per minute in case of the CU test because we are not allowing any water to get expelled out from the soil sample. But just try to imagine yourself, you are conducting a CD test and you are also allowing the water to drain out during the shearing phase. Now, water draining is a time-bound phenomenon, but your strain rate is another time-bound phenomenon. It goes like a rapid. In 5 minutes, you can complete the test. So in 5 minutes, can we able to drain the soil sample? Practically not possible. Practically not possible. So then how to accomplish drainage as well as the application of the strain together? So this can be accomplished by lowering the strain rates. Normally we apply the strain rate of very low. I guess it is quite low, 0.025 millimeter per hour or something, 0.025 millimeter per minute or something. Okay, so the strain rate is so low, it gives enough time for water to get expelled out under that amount of the load. Okay, that is the reason we require hoping 15 days of testing time or 1 month of testing time for CD test. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you all why each soil type of each drag cell testing required. Okay, so
Hello,
let me,
sir.
yeah,
So your
yeah.
voice broke, sir.
What shall I do? Okay, so anyhow, I'm going to explain about all those testing only, so no problem. So let me take a tour of explaining about each and every test. So let me take first consolidated drain test. So as we know, total stress is nothing but pore water pressure plus effective stress. So at step one, at the end of the consolidation, so you are going to apply initially confining pressure. Since you are dealing with the consolidated drain test, the drainage valve is opened. Now, what you are doing, this is the total stress. You are applying the stress which is initially applied on the soil sample is called as the total stress, because this amount of the load is borne by, both soil particles as well as water. That's why it is called as a total stress. But when the drainage valve is opened, so the moment we apply the confining pressure, water simply escapes from the soil sample. It doesn't take any amount of the pressure. So therefore, the pore water pressure on the water is zero. So therefore, your total stress becomes effective stress at the end of the consolidation. Okay. So everyone try to understand as clearly as possible about all these testings. If these fundamentals are clear, then you can able to answer all the questions related to the pore water pressure. Okay, so this is at the end of the consolidation. Now during the during the shearing stage, so we applied initially the total stress of sigma vc, but in case of the CD test, the valve is opened during the shearing stage as well. But on top of the initial confining pressure, we are also applying the deviated stress, that is delta sigma. Since the drainage valve is opened and the load applied is so slow, the strain rate is quite low, 0.025 or 0.0025 millimeter per minute. So we need to apply the load for at least 15 or 20 days. So until the pore water pressure is becoming zero. So in this case, how do you measure the total as well as the lateral direction? So here the confining pressure is remained same, that is sigma 3 remains same. But since during the shearing or for shearing of the soil sample, you apply deviated stress, therefore your sigma 1 is nothing but initial confining pressure sigma 3 plus additional load, additional increment of stress, that is delta sigma. So sigma 1 is, so sigma Vc plus delta sigma. So the stresses that you are going to get is again effective stress. They are not a total stress, because there is the total pore water pressure is dissipated. Now at failure, so this is at failure. At failure also, since the drainage valve is opened, the pore water pressure becomes 0, and your sigma 3 is nothing but sigma 3f dash, and sigma 1 is sigma 1f dash at failure. At the end of the consolidation, so since we allowed the water to expel from the soil sample, so water doesn't take any amount of the load, therefore pore pressure is 0. During the shearing stage also, so we kept the valve open, therefore even if you apply additional increment load, so no load is taken by the water sample, therefore no pore water pressure within the soil sample. And this is the effective stress condition within the soil sample. And at failure also same thing. At failure also same thing. So if anybody has any question, you are free to ask.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, is that the sigma Vc and sigma Hc is equal at the test condition?
During the consolidation phase, they are equal, and they are equivalent to again the overburden pressure of the field condition.
Okay, sir.
Any other question? Okay. So this is the so this is what is the deviative stress. The confining pressure is sigma 3, and summation of confining pressure plus incremental pressure, that is major principal stress and minor principal stress. So deviative stress is nothing but sigma 1 minus sigma 3. Okay. So then, so this is the results that we normally get it from CD test or from any triaxial testing, whether you take CU or CD. However, there is a small difference. There is a small difference. Suppose if you look at the volume change of the sample, there was a complete consolidation with time. Loose sand or normally consolidated clay, or dense sand or the over consolidated clay. So this is what is the stress strain response, and this is what is the volume change response. So here if you look at the NC clay or loose sand, so with increase in strain, there is a continuous increase in the stress. This indicates that as you are increasing the strain, the particles themselves are adjusting or rearranging such that the sample is attaining the densest possible state. Okay. So similarly, so as the sample is achieving the densest possible state, then the volume change continuously decreases with increase in the strain rate. So this is the case of loose sand or normally consolidated clay. So you need to understand one of the fundamental distinction between the loose sand, NC sand, or dense sand or over consolidated clay. When you do any kind of a triaxial testing and a loose or NC say, so there are enough amount of voids are available for soil particles to readjust themselves. Okay, but when you try to conduct the same test on the dense sand or the over consolidated clay, you have to understand that the sample has been fully consolidated or fully densified to its maximum possible state. No more consolidation or the packing is possible. Okay. So therefore, when the sample is in its fully dense state, so initially when you apply the small amount of the deviative stress, the sample tries to initially get compressed, because so if at all there is a particles rearrangement, it's not a rearrangement, because when you said dense sand, the particles are already arranged. But there is a small compression possible, because this is Here the particles align themselves to roll as you are increasing the strain. So on dense sand, initially there is increase in stress immediately. Suppose if you look at the amount of the strain.
Sir, can you please repeat? The voice is broke again, sir.
Okay.
So
Sir,
for
for
the
the
dense
dense
sand
sand.
and OC clay. Yes, sir.
Okay. So in case of the dense sand, the particles are already fully packed. No more densification is possible. No more densification is possible. Okay. But on already densified soil, if you further apply the deviatoric stress, what happens? So they absorb small amount of the strain just to accommodate the particles to roll over one over the another. That is the reason there is a small compression. There is a small compression. Okay. Now here also you look at it. The amount of the strain that taken by normally consolidated clay and over consolidated clay, there is a huge distinction. So NC clay has taken substantial amount of the strain, while OC clay took very less amount of the strain, very less amount of the strain. The moment you started applying the strain, soon it attained the peak. Then thereafter there is a decrease. Thereafter there is a decrease. Just try to imagine. It reached a peak. It reached a peak here. Then the stress decreased. Then the stress decreased. So in between, from peak to the decreased, here the started a phenomenon called as a particle rolling. Particle rolling. So here the particles started rolling one over the another. So what happens is when the particles are started rolling one over the another, instead of they're undergoing the compression, they will try to dilate. That is the increase in the volume. So the increase in the volume. So this is the reason. So if you conduct any triaxial sample, so this increase is called as a dilation. So they show both compression angle as well as a dilation angle. But dilation is more prevalent in dense sand or OC clay. And thereafter, so from this point onward, it indicates that the particles are aligned themselves so that they now move parallelly. Okay, so they simply slide, no more rolling. The rolling is already completed at this stage. So this part already rolling is over, and this part they will simply slide. That's why this strength is called as a this point is also called as a critical state condition. This is also called as a critical state condition, and the critical state condition is called as a residual strength. So this is the peak strength and this is the residual strength, and this point is typically critical state condition. Critical state condition. Now there is a altogether different soil mechanics, that is a critical state soil mechanics. So the entire critical state soil mechanics talks about what is happening to the soil at this condition. Okay, so this is the reason, as I explained. So because of this rolling over the particle and rearrangement, and they will show so continuously decrease in volume or decrease and followed by the increase in volume. So then how to determine the shear strength parameters? So here also we are going to conduct the triaxial testing on 3 samples corresponding to 3 confining pressures. So then obviously what you get is 3 Mohr circles. So confining stress 1, confining stress 2, then confining stress 3, then confining stress 3. So 3 samples were subjected to 3 CD tests. Okay, so from this stress strain diagram, we know the deviated stress and we know the normal stress. The shear stress we know, the normal stress we know. So once sigma 1 and sigma 3 is known, then one can able to construct the Mohr circle diagram. So these are the 3 Mohr circles. Then so now you try to join the tangents of all the 3 Mohr circles together using a line. So using a line. So then that line normally passes through horizon in case of the CD test. Generally passes through origin, which indicates that it is immaterial whether you conduct CD test on a sand or a clay, it doesn't matter. So your cohesion component becomes 0. Okay, only frictional component governs the shear strength of the soil. Okay, so this is what I'm asking question yesterday. So even if you conduct the triaxial CD test or any kind of a triaxial testing on a clay particle, the pi increases but C continuously decreases. So meaning thereby, when the particles are adjusting such that, so the angle with which they offer the resistance is substantially increases. So because of that reason, your pi value increases. But here, what the parameters that is only the total stress parameters, not the effective stress parameters. Total stress parameters. Okay, all are total stress parameters. So since the pore water pressure is 0, E is C dash, pi is pi dash. So this is CD test results. Mohr-Coulomb failure envelope, sigma 1, sigma 3. And this is for normally consolidated soil, and this is for over consolidated soil. Normally consolidated soil or consolidated soil. So initially, if you conduct the triaxial test on OC soils, you may find that there is a small amount of the C value. But the moment you conduct the CD test, everything becomes 0. Everything becomes 0. So this is normally consolidated, and this is over consolidated. Here, this is one important thing. So for over consolidated soils, there is some amount of the C exists. Thus, CD is not equals to 0. Here, D refers to drained condition. D refers to drained condition. Drained or effective, both are same. Both are same. So this is the Mohr circle at failure condition, failure envelopes. So this is some practical applications of the CD analysis. So now let me explain some of the practicality of these things. So initially, you are planning to build an embankment or a road or something on a soil mass. Say here in this case, I have taken the soft clay. So here in this, I have taken the soft clay. So initially, the soft clay is under fully saturated condition, but it may be undergoing the consolidation. So because of its own weight, because of its own weights of the soft clay. Now, what we are doing it. So when we apply the additional load in the form of the overburden pressure, that is delta sigma, there is an increase in stress on the soft soil. And because of this increase in stress, the soft clay undergoes the consolidation process. But the consolidation is a time-bound phenomenon. It won't happen overnight. So the water has to dissipate maybe in months' time. Okay, maybe in months' time. So therefore, in order to reduce the time, what we do is we increase the surcharge load. So that the time required for dissipation of excess pore water pressure becomes 0. Now, initially, before applying the surcharge load, the condition of the soft soil is undrained. What do you mean by undrained? In case of the undrained condition, the load is shared by both soil particle as well as the water particle. The moment you start applying the delta sigma, the load borne by the water particle gets shifted to the soil particles alone, because as they can't able to bear any compression load and they try to escape in the lateral direction, either in this direction or in this direction, wherever nearby atmospheric condition is available. So during the transformation of the stresses between soil and water, the soil undergoes the consolidation. Okay. Now, for example, in one season or during the construction, what kind of condition prevails on the soft clay? Is it undrained or drained condition? So during the imposition of surcharge load, what kind of condition prevails in the soft clay?
Drained condition.
During the initial condition, it is undrained condition. Undrained condition. Just remember, again, when I say soft clay and when I talk about the undrained condition, this soft clay is fully saturated. Fully saturated. If the soft clay is fully dry and no more this drainage or undrainage or total or effective stress analysis is valid, it is only the effective. That's it. If there is water only, then the drainage condition comes into the picture. So when the load is applied initially, so undrained condition prevails. Undrained condition prevails. If you don't take care of this undrained condition properly, then you are going to end up the failure of the slope. Failure of the slope. Okay. So if you look at most of the failures in soil mechanics, whether it is a slope stability failure or foundation failure or pile foundation failure, whatever it is, more than 90% of the failures are of this prevalence of undrained condition. Undrained condition. Okay. So if you are taking care very well of undrained condition, the structure, geostructure is safe. Just remember, when there is an undrained condition, the value of pi is 0. Value of pi is 0, and your C is nothing but Cu, undrained cohesion or undrained shear strength. Undrained cohesion or undrained shear strength. In all undrained soils, the angle of internal friction is 0. What is the meaning of pi is 0? The soil will not take any amount of a load. Okay, that's why in clays, what will happen to the shear strength of the soil? This is what the question I asked in our previous assignment. What happens to the shear strength of the soil immediately upon applying the load? So the entire load is borne by only the water particles because the pi is 0. And if it is a clay and this water are, so that is in terms of the cohesion. Here the cohesion also includes the water pressure which imposes in the form of a capillarity or diffusive double layer, so on and so forth. Okay. So what happens to the shear strength now? The shear strength is because of only the cohesion value. The cohesion is unreliable as compared with the pi. Since pi is 0, the shear strength varies as the water dissipates. The shear strength of the soil varies as the water dissipates. Okay, so that the shear strength which is developed only because of the load shared by water, that is called as a undrained shear strength. Undrained shear strength. Okay. Now, as the water start expelling from the soil sample or as the consolidation is taking place, so there is a shift in the load transfer from water to the soil particles. But this is a time-bound phenomenon. That's why when you talk about the UU test, the strength that is normally determined is called as a short-term strength. But in case of the CD, as the consolidation takes a substantial amount of time in terms of the months or years, so the strength that is going to develop is long-term strength. It is not the short-term strength. So the moment you apply the load, initially UU condition prevails. From UU, then it will move to CU condition. You move to CD. This is what exactly happens. Okay, so among these, UU is the worst condition. CD is the safest condition. So if you take care of UU condition, so you can verify your structure is safe or not. Okay, so this is the in situ undrained shear strength. Okay, sorry, in case of the CD test, what you get is in situ drained test.
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, this clay would have been lying on the ground for a long period of time.
True.
So it must be consolidated by its own cell weight also.
True.
So some water must have been expelled out by the cell weight.
Correct.
Or there may be chance if it's very long, then all the water must have drained.
But from which location?
Means it depends upon the environmental condition prevailing there.
See, if you take any small area, the self-weight consolidation is remain same over the all area. Is it true?
Yes, sir.
That means whole area is undergoing the self-consolidation.
Yes, sir.
But the same condition prevails over the 1 kilometer or 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers, as long as this kind of the soil exists. Okay, so this is the reason. Yes, it is true. The self-consolidation happens, but only to certain extent. Okay, but
Okay.
that self-consolidation doesn't mean that it won't allow the permeability through that particular soil. It allows the permeability. That is the problem. And this is the nature of the soil. So because of this self-consolidation, if soil doesn't allow the permeability, then we don't get the water. Then there is no movement of the groundwater. So there is another problem.
Okay, sir.
So that is the reason there is a self-consolidation. That's why if you dig anything, as you go down, your density increases. That increase in density is because of the self-consolidation.
Okay, sir.
Okay, but it doesn't mean that it totally curtail the movement of water. No, it still allows the water movement. But the condition which we talk about, that CD, is no movement of the water at all. That is the distinction between.
Okay, sir.
So this is in case of.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, as you told that the water will repels, then the water will go to what? I mean, if the permeable soil layer exists, then only the water will drain out, na?
Correct. See, for example, so you are standing on a 1 acre of land. Okay? 1 acre of land. When you construct a building or when you construct a road, so you will construct only on, say, quarter of that acre, not on whole acre.
Okay.
Okay. So when you construct any structure on quarter of an acre, so remaining 3/4 quarter of an acre is vacant. So if at all, if we impose any load on this quarter of an acre, so the water gets dissipated into the surrounding area. But only from a limited depth and from a limited volume. What is that limited depth?
Volume is under the failure plane.
Not under the failure plane. Under your isobar.
Okay.
What is the meaning of isobar?
It's a contour line connecting the equal pressure line.
Yeah.
Pressure points.
So if you try to draw the widest possible isobar, so then that indicates that behind that point there is no stress. Okay, when there is stress distinction between inside and outside the isobar, so where is the possibility of water to move?
On the outside of the isobar.
From inside to the outside.
Inside to outside, yes.
Okay, so that's what exactly happens. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so you said that CD condition is the safest condition. So
Yeah.
means we want in practicality we want CD condition to prevail all the time. We try to maintain CD condition.
No. We try to accomplish the CD condition.
Yes, sir. That's what I meant, sir. We try to achieve CD condition, sir.
Yes, we will try to achieve the CD condition because at the CD condition the structure is safe.
Yes, sir. So just because it's because the condition becomes drained and pore water pressure decreases and effective stress increases. Is that the
Correct.
reason? Yes, sir. Thank
There
you.
is another thing. The cohesion component is highly unreliable and it is variable. Only the
Sorry, sir.
friction, see, when you talk about the shear strength parameters, we have a cohesion, we have a friction.
Yes, sir.
The cohesion is always not reliable.
Okay, sir.
Okay, only
Yes,
the
sir.
frictional component is reliable because so it is the contact angle made by the particles.
Yes, sir.
So we can destroy the friction angle and we can regain the friction angle.
Okay,
But
sir.
with the cohesion, such thing is not possible.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so this is the fundamental reason pi is reliable and C is unreliable.
Okay,
So
sir.
we want to rely only on reliable parameter of pi. We don't want to rely on unreliable parameter of C.
Yes, sir.
But these conditions, say for example, for example, in this case only, what happens? You built an embankment here. So initially there was an undrained condition during the construction. Okay,
Yes,
because
sir.
when you are compacting the soil sample, you pour some amount of the water and you allow that water to retain. And when you are going in a layers wise, the bottom layer water is there, soil is there. When you put the top layer, there exists some amount of the delta sigma on the bottom layer. Since water is also there is a kind of undrained condition prevails at the bottom layers. That's why all constructions during the construction are under undrained condition. They are not in the drained condition. Drained condition. Okay. Now try to look at. See, suppose say I have taken this element. This element. When I apply the load, when I apply the vertical load, say this is delta sigma. This is delta sigma. This load is borne by the water particle plus soil particle. Water particle plus soil particle. If it is on the soil particle, there is no problem because they will try to readjust. Say for example, soil particles are like this, initially like this, and during the adjustment they will come like this. Okay, initially this is vertical, inclined later. It will be inclined later. Okay, but with the water cannot able to take the load. Resistance is offered by the friction. In case of the soil particle, the resistance is offered in the form of a friction. Okay, and this perennial. But in case of the water, they don't take any load. They don't take any load. Remember, they don't take any load. If you apply the load, initially they will try to bear it, but they will try to dissipate with time. When they are dissipating, the dissipation happens in the form of applying the lateral pressure on the soil particle. Lateral pressure on the soil particle. That means when water is trying to move in the pores, they will try to exert lateral thrust on the particle. Just imagine yourself. There are a few particles where there is no load, but there is a lateral thrust. Then they will try to push away. Or they will try to get segregated from the main course of the soil. And during this phase, there is a formation of the voids in the soil mass because this makes the soil particles loose. The water pressure makes the soil particles loose. Or other way around of understanding this one is, if the vertical imposed load is so high, the same amount of intensity of load is exerted in the lateral direction by the water molecules. They won't bear any amount of the load. This is called as a pore pressure. Because water is relatively uncompressible. When it is uncompressible, what it do? It tries to dissipate the pressure in the lateral direction. And who will be the takers? Only the soil particles. So why the soil particles? Because the soil particles can do one thing. The particles can undergo themselves, or the whole soil can undergo themselves. But when delta sigma is so high, so the particles no more able to bear the load, and therefore they will try to disrupt in a lateral direction, and that causes the failure by the pore pressure. So that causes the failure pressure by, sorry, failure by the pore pressure. This is what is exact meaning of failure by the pore pressure. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Very. So here in this case, so during the initial phase of the construction, the entire embankment is under undrained condition. Now you allow for some time, all water gets drained out, then this HUCU, then followed by the CD condition. But so when the same embankment is used for the reservoir purpose, two things will happen. Under no water condition, CD condition prevails. But when water comes to the full reservoir level, the CU condition prevails. Why CU condition prevails? Anybody could able to explain me?
So water percolated in that area so that it becomes undrained again.
Okay, true. Then why it is consolidated? Any logical explanation? Oh, time is already over. Sorry. So I will stop it here. Just think it over. Maybe on Friday when we are meeting, I can discuss.
Once can you repeat the question?
See, in the reservoir, the water may be at full reservoir level or it can be empty. Okay. When it is empty, the CD condition may prevail. While when it is full, it may rose to CU condition. Why? How CU and CD conditions are developing? Okay, so this is the question. Just think it over.